Hey everybody. Welcome to Becoming Legendary, a podcast from Vibetality, where we get the opportunity to talk to people from all walks of life about their personal journeys towards becoming legend. This week, we have on Joel Greene, a cryotherapy pioneer and founder of Primalcold. So Primalcold is a cryotherapy company started by Joel. He is the inventor of the devices, and I have some of the Primalcold products, specifically the jetpack, and I absolutely love it. I will have a link to Joel's website in the show notes. The other thing that we talk an awful lot about in this episode is the idea of biohacking. And biohacking is just really the idea of utilizing different tools, eating methods, eating styles to help our body's biology feel their best. Whether you know it or not, if you've been on a whole body vibration plate, you can describe yourself as a biohacker. Whole body vibration is definitely a hacking technology. If you think about the fact that we've taken a yoga practice and we've shrunken the time frame down to 15 minutes, and you still get so many of the benefits, that really is the epitome of biohacking. So you almost certainly are a biohacker. Without further ado, let's get to this week's episode of Becoming Legendary with Joel Greene.
There are no gold medals for down dog. Maximize every opportunity so that you can become legendary. What adjustments can you make right now to make yourself 1% better? Your only goal is to be the best version of you.
Patrick, how you
How are
doing,
you,
man? Good.
So how's the day?
The day has been beautiful. It's, as you know, it's sunny in Arizona, so yeah, it's been great.
Cool. So one of the things that I always start off every single conversation with is, what does a typical day in your world look like?
Well, let's see. So I've got two sons, and so the typical day and a 9-to-5 job and all of that. So the typical day is going to be, these days at least, waking up at around 5:30 in the morning and packing my kids' lunches for school. And that includes sending them off to school with bottles of spring water from Harding Spring, which is along Oak Creek, just north of Sedona.
Yeah.
And so after I pack those lunches, I'll brew up some coffee for me and my wife, and of course do the whole butter coffee thing, throw some healthy fats in there, and that's a good foundation for the morning, for me at least. And then I'll hop in the shower, and my shower, I put some infrared heat lamps in the shower behind a plexiglass sheet as well. And so I've got that up in the corner of the shower. So every morning I'm going to get some red light therapy without even trying or adding extra time into my day. Because I don't like the idea of, it's hard to have a new routine. It's hard to add something into your day that takes time out of your day a lot of the times. So I give a lot of thought to just how can I automate things and get something in that doesn't require extra time. And so after that, then I'll take my oldest son to school. And on the way into school, we'll either listen to maybe a podcast or listen to some Alan Watts or some Tony Robbins or something like that. And so that's how I start the day.
Okay. There's so much into that. So one, I want to backtrack to kind of how we first interacted, which was through Instagram, which is just funny. It's kind of that small yet large biohacker world. So the biohack of starting out we started out with water, right? So we started out with natural spring water. Can you fill me in on the concept behind it's Harding Spring, right?
Yeah.
Fill me in on why that's so important to you and how that became so important.
I was a slow convert, really. A friend of mine who's an herbalist up here in Flagstaff, she had mentioned that spring, and we've got this water filter as well. It's a European ceramic water filter. There's just a gravity feed. It's called a Big Berkey.
Yep.
And those are great. And I figured, hey, this is good enough. And so I really didn't think about it. And then my wife had mentioned it as well, maybe a month later, and we went down there to this spring. It's one of the easiest springs in the world to get to. I mean, some of these springs, like up near Mount Shasta, I remember we stopped off there a while ago to get some water, and it wasn't very easy to access, and there's mosquitoes everywhere, and so it's just not fun. But this one along the creek on the way to Sedona, it's just so easy. And as we're collecting this water, first of all, it tastes so much better than spring water that you're gonna buy at the store that's been sitting in a glass bottle for a while.
Yeah.
Because it's filtered through Oak Creek Canyon, so it's filtered through millions of pounds of stone. And I didn't really realize until that moment when we were first collecting it that, oh my gosh, my entire life I've been drinking water that has traveled through miles and miles of these labyrinths of pipes. And that is just some strangeness. It's a high level of strangeness that we just take for granted.
For sure.
And so now it's become just kind of a ritual almost, where we'll go down there every couple of weeks and load up on water, and we'll listen to maybe Harry Potter audio books or something like that on the way down. Just do something fun, and the kids like it. And so it's just a beautiful thing to go down there and collect water, and you always are going to meet some interesting people down at the spring because it's close to Sedona. So you're going to meet some interesting types there. It's awesome.
I have to believe, there's some amazing stories that come out of that. How often are you collecting water?
So we'll do it every about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we'll collect what is it? I think about 20 gallons or so.
Really?
And that'll mostly do it for us. We've been thinking of getting some more containers. And originally I was thinking of going super purist and getting glass containers.
Yeah.
But I actually went with plastic, the BPA-free plastic, because it can be downright treacherous in the winter to try to collect water down there. And there's ice. There's ice everywhere. Yeah. So if you slip while you're holding like a 3-gallon glass jar or a 1-gallon container of glass, it could be a problem for you.
So, it'd be very problematic.
But it's
So all of the water you use,
pragmatic about this stuff.
All of the water you use for consumption comes from that spring.
I mean, I try not to be too purist about it. It's really easy to get, or at least maybe it's just me, but it's easy to get overly upset and focus on not doing right instead of just being a little bit more gentle with yourself and forgiving with yourself, and say, hey, it's not perfect, but it's good enough. So
done is better.
But I would say most of the water we're drinking is not just out of the spring. We've been doing that for maybe over a year now, and cool. It's great.
Cool.
It's an amazing resource to have.
The lines of how long is the actual process of collecting the 20 gallons of water?
Oh, it's pretty quick. I would say if you're fast about it, it really, from our house, it takes maybe 50 minutes to do it.
Okay.
To get down there and back. It's not that bad at all.
That's amazing. Oh, that is really amazing. All right, so you've touched on a couple of things. Like you touched on that concept of done is better than perfect, which is one of my favorite concepts of all time. You touched on the idea of not really wanting to change, not really having the ability to change everything. So you came up with this system of infrared sauna or infrared lights within the shower. You've described yourself to me as a lazy biohacker. Can you just kind of expand upon that concept? It goes right along with what you've been saying already.
Yeah. So I think, well, first of all, I'm a parent, 2 young kids in the job. I mean, everyone is busy. No one has enough time. And one of the things that I see in the biohacking community is that people can, I mean, myself included, you can go down some pretty wild rabbit holes and just really get deep into the weeds, trying to reach some kind of perfection. And one of the issues of that is that it makes the whole biohacking movement and community a little bit too weird for most people and a little bit inaccessible. And especially if you're asking people to, buy some crazy, fancy, expensive thing or take a lot of time out of their day. I mean, some of the things that look really awesome for an Instagram post are just frankly not that practical. Like, for example, in the cold therapy space, I'm lazy. I just know myself. I'm not going to go to the store, buy a bunch of bags of ice, and do an ice bath consistently. There's no way that I'm going to do that to get like a daily dose of cold. So I'll do a cold shower in the morning, or maybe more often than not, it's just a contrast shower. Start it out warm and then finish it cold. But I mean, everyone's busy, and so it's great to just find ways to seamlessly integrate something or replace maybe a habit that you have with something that's a little bit better. Like instead of some toast in the morning, have some butter coffee or whatever it is. Try to replace instead of add, I guess, for your improvements.
I like that. It's really, even if it's not replace, it's just nudge, right? If you just nudge yourself in the right direction, just a little bit over time, those things really add up.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.
So this is on the idea, and we have to get to this. The idea of weird and out there biohacking tools, right? You are the device engineer for Primalcold, the inventor, the creator.
I'm the weird guy who's right now. I mean, maybe it's just a midlife crisis and this will pass. But right now, I'm the weird guy who's trying to encourage as many guys as possible to try out icing their balls.
Yes,
among other things. And also, I think chilling your spine is a very interesting thing as well. But yeah, that's where this whole thing started.
So this is where we first connected was on the Primalcold. What do you call the package? The Primalcold device? Is that a fair?
The jet. Oh, you mean the ball chilling thing itself is the jetpack.
Jetpack. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So the some Primalcold is the overall company.
Yeah.
And you guys do some like elongated cool packs or ice packs that are designed really to go across the spine and the shoulders. And you guys kind of have that whole diagram set up. Are there other things that I'm missing? Besides, of course, the jetpack, which we're going to get to.
Right now, those are the two main products. There are other products in the pipeline, but at the moment, I think it just makes sense to get the idea out there of other more approachable ways to get into cold therapy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what first brought me to cold therapy was Wim Hof. You know, I mean, my goodness, what an amazing human being he is. But the problem with that is that it seems so unapproachable for a lot of people. It seems frightening to even take a cold shower, and
it is frightening.
Let alone lowering yourself into an ice bath, or getting people on Instagram, they're always posting these pictures of like themselves up to their necks in like a frozen lake, and they've hacked a hole into the ice.
Yeah,
and it's awesome. And if you've got that available, that's amazing. But in Arizona, I mean, it's even a cold shower doesn't really get that cold.
For sure.
So I'm trying to promote this concept of essentially cold gear, basically just ice packs that you can use that offer targeted cold, and also part of that is having some strategic timing. And the strategic timing part is focused on chilling before you sleep.
Yep.
So when you're laying in bed and you're reading a book or you're messing around on your phone, you can chill your spine. You can lay some ice packs down on your bed, chill your spine, or you can ice your balls, or you can do both. And what I like about that is that it's a way to get your daily dose of cold in that takes zero extra time out of your day.
Right.
And I mean, it's not a replacement for an ice bath. Like, that's going to do something totally different for you. But I see it as like a gateway drug almost to get people interested in the cold. Because, I mean, the whole jetpack thing, icing your balls, it's so outrageous, and it will get people's attention. And I'm hoping that is what gets them to notice some real benefits from the cold. And maybe that'll help them drink the Kool-Aid further and start taking cold showers and really getting into it.
Yeah. So on that note, you had sent me a jetpack. It's become one of my favorite tools, and it's essentially exactly for that reason.
Yes.
Before bed, one of the other things that for me, the concept of jumping in the pool, which, right, not an ice bath, cold enough. I'm gonna tell you, it's cold enough. But doing that before bed, the like time requirement of prepping yourself for the pool, getting out of the pool, drying off, it's intensive, and there are many days where it's just impossible. So for me, being able to pull the jetpack out of the freezer, pop that thing on, lay down, and 15 minutes later put it away, fall asleep, and my sleep quality has been impacted significantly by using the jetpack device. So it's been really a fun tool to have an awareness of. And I have to say, one, amazing job. Two, was it just, hey, this is just weird enough to work? How did you get there? How did you get to icing your balls as the here's my entry point into the world?
It's so ridiculous. So like we spoke about before, Wim Hof definitely turned me on to the cold, and I'd heard about cold showers, and I'd heard about also from Dave Asprey, who I call him Butterman. That's who he is to me. So I read an article on Butterman's website about, I think it was called like Ice Face or something like that, and it's just about dunking your face into a tray of ice water.
Yeah.
And so I started by doing that, and really, if I unpack why I started there, I think it's because I was just afraid to do a cold shower. Like I just felt like that was going to be too terrifying on some level.
Yeah. So
I started with just doing my face in the cold water, and that was great. It woke me up, but that was about all it did. And there's so many anecdotes you can read online from guys about the improvements in libido and just feeling amazing after taking a cold shower. So I finally started doing that, I noticed the same thing that all the other guys were reporting. And so I wondered, well, why is it that there's such a difference between taking a full body cold shower versus just dunking my face in the ice water? And, it turns out that your testicles are responsible for making the lion's share of your testosterone. And so it just makes sense. Like, obviously, this is why these guys are feeling this boost in their libido. So then I figured, well, heck, I'm gonna keep taking the cold showers. But what would happen? Because it was summertime, and so I felt a little bit of a boost, but it wasn't that much. It was spring. It was April, and so the water was starting to warm up. It was kind of borderline at that point. And so then I just went to it. We had some cold packs laying around, and I tried it out, and they didn't fit well at all. I mean, it was a nightmare, right? But and they were too cold, and they didn't fit right. And I had to sort out some of the cold packs in the freezer. I did a little research, and they were made from PVC, and it was like, I don't want to put that on my junk. Which we can get into that later if you want. You definitely don't want to be putting something that's made from PVC on your goods. But I felt just such a shift from that, though, from doing that. And then I became the weird guy who was approaching all my friends and saying, you have to try this. And they're all doing it still, which is the funny part. And so, it just works. The feedback from people on Instagram and the first month or few months here since the product launch have just been amazing.
Yeah, and
so
the Instagram feed is Primalcold, right?
Yes.
Cool. So let's. The actual technology to the product, because I think the one of the really nice things is the amount of energy you've put into making the product really effective and safe. PVC, one issue, but there's also the issue of being too cold on the skin, right? So you have a really interesting gel in the pack that doesn't ever get hard frozen. It stays just above that perfectly slushy point, and then a minute after you take it out, it's ready to go.
Part of that depends on your freezer.
Okay.
We definitely put a lot of thought into the composition and worked with a company in Canada that's FDA registered and just has a very safe set of materials that they use for their products. But if you set your freezer all the way on cold and you put the jetpack in the very bottom of the freezer, you can probably make it solid. You can make it frozen solid. But in general, you don't want to do that. It's just far too cold. And if it's too cold, then it will sting your skin, and you won't be able to leave it on there for very long.
Right.
So you'll actually be able to deliver probably a little bit more cold if if it starts out as just a slushy, wet consistency. There are no heroes in the world of ball chilling, and no records to break.
Thankfully,
you don't need to overdo it, guys. Don't get too excited. But there was definitely a lot of thought that went into the amount of gel, the design of this thing, having a little extra drawstring cord for adjustability to just kind of cinch it up after you chill for a few minutes. You can cinch that up, and that helps get even more cold contour on your body. It's crazy. So so a lot of thought went into it. It's all made in North America and essentially assembled by hand. This is not some product that's cranked out in China.
Yeah.
And Yeah, back to the PVC. I mean, if you look on Amazon for cold packs, there are packs that will say they're made of nylon, and the outside of the pack is made of nylon, but then the inside, it's a nylon fabric, but that can't hold any water or gel or anything like that. It would just seep right through it. So the inner material is PVC, and the way that they're made, they're PVC cold packs. The seal is accomplished with heat. And one of the byproducts of heating and melting PVC is dioxin. And dioxin is highly carcinogenic, and it is known to impact your heart, your reproductive system. It's just a very bad chemical. And even though the PVC's out there, they say they're safe because they are free of plasticizers. There's still, I feel like, a very real potential risk of having dioxin just on the surface of the cold pack at those points where they melted and sealed it and cut it to shape. And my goal was to make something with materials that are like the plastic is safe enough to pack my kids' school lunches in if I wanted to.
Got it.
Yeah, especially because if you're putting it on your balls, I mean, my goodness, wouldn't you want it to be safe?
It's true.
So, or else you're sort of defeating the purpose.
It's very, very true. Just the concept of the kids showing up to school with ice packs that are jet packs is just rather funny to me.
I mean, yeah. It's the same type of plastic as, in many ways, though, as like a sandwich bag material.
Yeah,
or something
that makes
like
sense.
That. Yeah, you want it to be essentially food safe.
For sure.
You want a cold pack for your nutsack that's so safe you can eat off of it.
2018 marketing slogan. But you're right. I mean, I think, and those are the things that really matter that are overlooked way too often, because you can save a couple cents here, or you can save a significant amount of money here. But the value of safety of the human organism is pretty hard to measure.
I don't know if you're going to do something as ridiculous as a product like this, I mean, you may as well do it right.
Really?
I mean, it's so something that that impacted me from just a long time ago. Actually, when I was a freshman in college, we had a visiting professor from Florida, Dr. Lou Gillette. And he and his research team, they studied alligators in polluted lakes in Florida. And this guy, he was not like an ivory tower academic. He would wrestle juvenile male alligators out of the water and onto his boat. And they would take blood samples from them, and they would measure the penis length of the alligators. And so, I mean, this guy is a true badass academic.
I would say so.
Yeah, and he was blowing the whistle on BPA and xenoestrogens. These are synthetic chemicals that act like estrogen in the body. He was blowing the whistle on all that 15 years before anyone had heard about BPA-free plastic and all of that. And he even testified before Congress and said that every man in this room is half the man his grandfather was. And what he meant by that is that research is showing that there are generational declines in testosterone in men. And this is speculated to be because of these synthetic estrogen-mimicking chemicals that we're just putting out into the environment everywhere. And so that really left an impact on me, because part of the take-home message of this was it's unavoidable. This stuff bioaccumulates. It's lipophilic, which means that it is fat-loving, so it stores in your fat. It bioaccumulates. Simply having a clean diet and not using a nonstick skillet and stuff like that is not enough. Like, you can't avoid it. And so everyone's balls, every guy's ball. I'm sorry for the women that are listening to this. Even if there are any women listening, but if you are, maybe I'm sure you have someone with balls in your life that you care about. But men need all the help they can get because there are these generational declines in testosterone, and it's horrifying to think about, really, what we're doing in just sort of an unconscious way to the world that we're living in. So that really somehow informed part of this as well.
That's a long path from shrinking alligator penises to where we are. It's an interest. I think there's a couple of things that you said there that are really hitting home. One of them, just the idea of the lack of awareness of our own individual impact on the world that we live in is kind of scary to me. You do some things that I view as really, really super interesting, and in that hippie realm that I really want everybody to push more into. So one, I know you're a mushroom hunter, which Northern Arizona is like a pretty darn good spot for a couple of varieties of mushrooms, right?
Yes. You've got Amanita caesarea up there, which is known as Caesar's mushroom. That's a good edible. You've got the white king bolete, Boletus borosii, that's up there. That's beautiful. You've got the regular king bolete, Boletus edulis, at the higher elevations up on the San Francisco peaks, for example. And you've got lobster mushrooms, which are bright orange. Those are really easy for beginners to identify. And those are great. You can slice those up and fry them up with your scrambled eggs or something, and they'll turn the eggs kind of a pink color as the orange pigment bleeds out into the coconut oil and into the eggs, and it makes for some fun kind of circus eggs. Wild mushrooms are interesting because you will get, the first time you eat them, sometimes you'll notice some kind of almost like a subtle high, because your body's getting all these micronutrients and trace minerals.
Interesting.
That you're not getting from wild foods. Yeah. Or you're not getting from foods at the grocery store. And if you're not eating wild foods, which I don't eat a lot of wild foods, but so when you do that, you get some kind of hit from it. It's pretty cool.
Okay, now let me put these two last concepts together. So I feel like there's an overall lack of awareness of how we're treating our planet. When you're spending enough time to forage for food in the wilderness, you really are interacting with the wild, with nature, more than the majority of Americans. Let's keep it to Americans. Have you noticed a shift at all in the environment that you're out kind of foraging through in the last, how long have you been doing this?
Well, I first paid attention to mushrooms when I was in high school, actually. Okay. Up in the Northwest, and that was, I was interested in different mushrooms.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I definitely approached it. There are some real deadly poisonous mushrooms up in the Northwest that look like dead ringers for psilocybin mushrooms. Right? Well, I'm sorry. What was that? Amanita muscaria.
So yeah. What part of the Northwest? Let's start there.
Yeah. So I was in just on the outskirts of Seattle.
Okay.
But there are a lot of little tiny brown mushrooms in the Northwest, and some of those can give you a very profound experience, and other ones can destroy your liver and put you in the hospital or
profoundly
kill you.
affect you in another way.
Yes.
Okay. So we're looking at little brown. We're not bright.
Yes. Yeah. But that definitely informed it. When you're hunting for mushrooms up there, and if you really get the severity of the situation, that if you get it wrong, it's a problem, then it makes you become serious about learning something deeply instead of just sort of dabbling. And so I've always brought that to the mushroom hunting world.
Okay. So I love that. So mushroom hunting for me, I hope lots of people, but for me, it's one of those things that I've always really wanted to do. But I feel like you need to have a really knowledgeable guide kind of give you that leg in. Would you agree with that?
Yes, that helps a lot, and also just having a good field guide helps as well.
Okay. All right. Get brave and use a field guide. That's your advice to me.
It's good to talk with people because people that know the area, because they can point you in the direction both of where to look and also what are some good species to start out with that are hard to mix up and mistake for something else.
I like that.
But in general, I mean, we have there are two classes of people or cultures when it comes to mushrooms. There are the mycophilic and the mycophobic cultures, and this was something that was recognized by an amateur mycologist, Gordon Wasson, many years ago. And so I think just plenty of people, myself, my family included, or my parents, grandparents, all of that, they carry a deep-seated, irrational fear of fungi. So, so that can be wild. But there are plenty of wild plants that you could harvest that could kill you as well. So,
valid, very true. Mushrooms have a little bit of a negative rap to them.
Oh, for sure.
So have you seen the actual kind of foraging area that you spend time in shift and change at all?
I've been in Flagstaff 17 years, so I don't know about that. If you look back at the snow records, there were some years where there were storms that brought 6 feet of snow. I mean, just that would collapse the roofs of buildings in Flagstaff, just massive snow. And we don't see that anymore. So there are some shifts for sure, but it's hard to pick those up even, in an entire lifetime, even, let alone just under 2 decades.
Yeah. Okay.
So, it's happening, but
it's fair though. It's an interesting. If you look at the perspective of a human life, it's so short. It's hard to really grasp the shifts that are happening to something with a multi-billion plus lifespan.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is part of the sadness of the situation.
I don't even know what to think. We have too much information. Like, we're just hairless monkeys. We're not meant to have as much information as we do, and it can make us a little neurotic because we're trying to control everything.
Yeah.
Or at least I feel that way. I see that even just in the biohacking microcosm and all of that. I mean, yeah, it's true that we are doing we've turned the planet into a giant experiment that we're running. And
yes.
We'll see what happens with that. It's a little frightening, especially, I mean, I've got kids. I think about that stuff a lot.
I think that
I don't know what to,
another layer.
Yeah, I don't know what to do about it. I mean, I saw on I think it was on the Vibetality Instagram page, you guys I saw a shirt and it said, humankind, and then it says like maybe be more of both. I'm not sure. What does it say?
Humankind be both. Yeah.
Be both. Yeah, and I think that's great to put simplistic messages out there. Simplistic meaning that it's something that can really lodge in someone's mind and be effective that way. I'm not sure how effective really complex arguments are. It seems like simplicity can really help sometimes.
It's so I think simplicity and starting with commonalities. I think if I could push kind of two concepts on people, it's really try to get to the simplest solution and start with the commonalities. So get to the things that we can agree on, and then let's work back to the point where we disagree. But at some point, somewhere in between us, we have to have something in common because we're the same species. So somewhere with another human, we're going to have something in common. I think if everyone took those two things, we could move a lot of things in the right direction. Just like you could do with biohacking, but just making those small little shifts.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Totally agree. It seems like I see Elon Musk, and what he's doing is so interesting because he's captured people's imaginations in a way that is larger than just looking at like the gross domestic product of a country or something like that. I mean, he's got people excited about going to Mars and these big things, and it seems like I mean, we've got all these stockpiles of nuclear weapons, but what we don't have is some kind of consensus on what we should be doing. Like Here we are, we're on what is really a highly sophisticated spaceship that's the planet, and we haven't figured out what we should be doing. Maybe we should be paying attention to like asteroids that can hit the planet. Let's protect the planet from asteroids. Then let's figure out how to turn the planet into a Garden of Eden. And I don't know, like let's figure out how to make the place better.
Yeah.
And but it's hard to. I don't know. I mean, I've got kids and a 9 to 5, and the dog pukes on the carpet, and you're left with like dealing with the minutia of the day, right?
Yep.
And so I don't know how you work on those two things simultaneously. But it seems like you've got it figured out, though, actually, with what you're doing with the yoga studio and all of that. It seems to me like a very practical, pragmatic, and effective way to help move the needle.
So, one, I don't know that anybody ever has it figured out. I wish I could ever say I got it. There it is. I have it figured out. But that being said, leaving corporate America and rededicating towards helping people feel better, it feels really different. It's just there's a different energy that comes from kind of serving people than it does from what I used to do, which was basically type different numbers into numbers and get paid to do that. I never really understood how I got paid to do what I did. So I don't have it figured out. Yes, I think that the community that's kind of collected around Vibetality is a strong enough community currently, and it's continually getting stronger, that will have the ability to shift things in small ways in the right direction. So I have a couple last questions for you. One of them is kind of related to that. So we at Vibetality, we always try to find these weird things that nobody's really putting out there in the world and kind of share them with people and just see how these things, compression therapy, the vibration therapy, flotation therapy, just things that are a little bit on the cusp, bring them together and share them with people, because we know that they can really impact how people feel, and when people feel better, they're just better people. What are the things that you feel like are in the biohacking, the self-improvement world that are underutilized right now that people should know about? Aside from the jetpack, obviously.
Yeah. Underutilized. Well, I don't know how well-rounded of a biohacker I am, really. I think let me think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like the red light therapy. I like anything that you can just seamlessly fit in with your daily routine. I think that people should not be afraid to do things that are a little weird, because breakthroughs, they really don't come from vanilla concepts. You've got to be willing to get out there a little bit. But something that hang on, let me get a sip of water here.
Yeah.
One thing I think about in the biohacking community is, after you've leveled up, and you're taking your fancy smart drugs and you're doing all this stuff, like, what are you gonna do now that you've leveled up? And I think service is where service is something that's maybe not talked about as much. People are trying to improve themselves in all these ways. You've got all this extra energy now. Your diet's dialed in. You've got your brain working a little bit better than it used to. What are you going to do with that? Do something in service of the greater good. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling right now. I think that's something that's not talked about enough.
I think that's 100% right, and I think it's a really important portion of a real connection to gratitude, and I think gratitude's a really important quality to have in your life, and without the actual like physical service, there's something lacking, right? You can make a giant donation, like a financial donation to something, and yeah, it feels pretty good. The chances are, though, that making a giant financial donation the chances are pretty strong that you won't make a donation so significant that it will impact the quality of your life. But when you actually take time out of your life to provide others with some type of service, it changes you, and there's a different kind of energy or currency exchange there. Like this, you're filled in a different way, and I think actually that's one thing that it might not be a biohack, but just an underutilized life tool that can really replenish people is just giving a little bit, physically giving.
That's beautiful. So instead, people are always looking for, like, and this is funny, this is so, not in service of the jetpack and Primalcold, but people are always looking for that next thing, right? Yeah. The next biohack to help them out. And one thing that I don't hear anyone talking about is that you're entitled to the work, but you're not entitled to the outcome of that work. And one of the problems that the internet, puts in our lap is that we have limitless information, and that on how to improve ourselves and whatever, and that information, it's so easy to confuse that with control. I mean, you have Butterman, you got Dave Asprey saying he's going to live to 180, okay? And what that does is that makes it now so that, I'm aware of all the implications of of diet and what that can mean for outcomes of cancer and all that. And now it makes it so that if I eat a cookie, it's not eating a cookie. It's now this like metaphysical, it's like an existential crisis of like, if I eat this cookie, this might be the thing that triggers the precancerous cells in my body and kills me dead. So basically where I'm going with this is that the thing to do if you're looking for the next biohack is to be forgiving with yourself and to realize in some ways that you have the right to the work but not the outcome, and you just have to sort of accept that and do the best you can, and it's okay.
It's so true. It's the it's so in line with kind of what we're really talking about on a daily basis around Vibetality, which is just, there are things that you have the ability to control, and that's the work that you put in. And then there are things that you don't have the ability to control, and that's the outcome. So you're entitled to the work, but not the outcome. It's so true, and it's so simple, and it's still difficult. It's just difficult to grasp that if I want to make a change that requires 180 days of work, there's nothing I can do today that will get me that 180 days of change. But if I don't do today's work, then I'm still 180 days away where I should be 179 days away. So there's that commitment to the process, doing the things you can do to get what you can out of each day. It's my 2018 kind of moral motto, what I want to see, and I keep talking about this to everyone. For some reason, there seems to be a lot of optimism around the potential of 2018, and I know every year there's optimism around there's the New Year's resolution thing, but for some reason 2018 seems to have a little bit more energy behind it, and I'm terrified that it's just going to go to waste. So I've been really preaching the concept of just go out and do whatever it takes to make 2018 fulfill its potential. And you can't control the potential, but you can control the work you do to release it. Absolutely.
Yeah,
All right.
I couldn't agree more.
Joel, you and I could chat with you for a while.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again for sure.
We should for sure. All right, I'm gonna let you get back to life, but I have one final question for you. Same question I end the podcast with for everyone, and it's: do you have any questions for me? And if the answer is no, the answer can be no.
I have a lot of questions for you, but just because what you're doing down there is so interesting. I'm wondering, one question I have, I guess, goes back to that shirt, actually, the humankind shirt.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what other messages are you putting out there through Vibetality, or are you thinking of putting out through there? And I'm meaning these kind of simple meme-like idea viruses.
So our biggest concept is kind of right along the lines of this podcast, which is really just live legendarily. So do all of the things that you can do to the best of your ability, whether that's kind of rooting your back foot in a Warrior 2 so that you make sure that you're fully engaged all the way through the pinky toe up into the hip socket, or it's saving somebody on the side of the road. I think both of those things, to quote Chris Ty Melodisto, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So just living life legendarily, that's our first and foremost. And the second one, it really came out of that concept that I was just talking about for 2018. So I was talking with Heather Janeski, who's one of our teachers. She actually is a frequenter of Flagstaff. big rock climber, but she's talking about this concept of really owning the warrior component of force, more or less. So it's a yoga studio. Vibetality is a yoga studio. So there's a lot of feminine energy in Vibetality, and I think oftentimes that feminine energy has a tendency to shy away from a forceful energy. So Heather and I were having this conversation about 2018 and trying to make it better and what we can do. And we really wanted to tell the story of connecting to that warrior component and the new idea of warrior, which is just about being strong and sharing your strength, right? So we're not talking about, we're hoping no one's picking up battle axes or things and attacking people. This is just about sharing that strength that you have inside you with everybody else. So I think those are our two things for this year: live legendarily and kind of share your inner warrior.
That's tremendous. It's amazing. Yeah, I love it.
And I love that question. It's a really interesting thing, and it's actually only become really recently that we've started to connect to those messages, that simplistic message. So I like that you've put a new perspective on that thought process for me. I'll say that.
I asked that because there are so many brilliant minds out there that have good ideas. They're very articulate, and they might be almost too smart for their own good. And the problem, though, is that they're not able to cross that chasm into making their complex ideas easily digestible for people.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they need to figure out it's like they need to consult with a marketer or something, someone who understands how to just make something just diamond pure, just clarify a very complicated, nuanced position into something simple that people can use in their daily lives. So I think it's great that you're putting those messages out.
Joel, thank you so much for carving this time out of your day. I know this isn't easy, so I greatly appreciate it, man.
It's so easy. We're gonna do it again sometime.
I would love to do this again, for sure.
Cool.
Maybe I'll make the trip up to Flagstaff. We'll do it in person.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Or some mushroom hunting or something.
Yes, that would be fantastic. I love it.
Let's do that.
Cool. Love it, man.
Patrick.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to talk to you again.
Yeah. All right. Take care. It was really good to chat.
Thanks, man.
How lucky are we? Conversations with people like Joel Greene just continually push me back to that reminder of what an amazing opportunity all of us around the Vibetality community have. There's just so many amazing people. There's so many amazing ways to make yourself feel better. And in this episode, we talked about cryotherapy, we talked about light therapy, we talked about mushroom hunting, we talked about raw water, we talked a lot about biohacking. But at the end of the day, all I can think of is how lucky are we? I will talk to you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for being a part of Becoming Legendary. Peace.